What's up, guys? Welcome back. So Grand Arena is here, and we're going to be starting a defensive phase soon. And based on how big your roster is, it determines how many teams you have to set. Your bigger rosters have to set upwards of 7 teams. Your lower rosters can set as much as 3 or 4 teams, so not as bad. But what we're finding is that you have to balance your offense and your defense. So what I want to go over in this video is some teams that I like to set for defense that don't really dig too much into your offensive capabilities. These are teams that we found really usually you want to set for offense or defense anyways in Territory Wars, and we're going to go ahead and go through the defensive phase today. So I want to list you guys my 7 top teams that I want to set for Grand Arena defense. I want to talk to you guys about some flexibility you can have with those teams, some characters you can sub in or out, some Zetas you could probably invest in or not. So we're going to go through all that today with defense. Now, a couple of quick things before I want to go any further into the video. I want to give a shout out to Malgus, who's been doing some nice artwork for my channel. You've got a new Darth Pow with a Christmas hat for the season. He's also been doing some nice artwork for my YouTube channel with a nice banner. So big thank you to Malgus. And I also want to welcome a new sponsor to my channel. You guys have heard me advertise for him before. Pimpo, aka the Mod Father. He has done a lot of remodding work. I've had several patrons go through him. Everyone has come away with a very favorable review. If you guys are very interested in getting up and catching up with him and working on your characters and your account for remodding for Grand Arena, Territory Wars, raids, anything, he can do it. He's very good. He's very busy right now. He's been slammed between advertisements with me and Cubs fan Han. So he's a little busy. If he doesn't get back to you for a couple days, don't worry. That's just because he's been slammed with work lately. But do not worry. The effort and time that he's going to put into it and trying to get up with him, that is going to be worth it in my opinion. Definitely a very solid service. I cannot recommend it enough. So first up, we have First Order, and this is a team that we've been setting on defense for Territory Wars for quite a while already. It's a very strong defensive team. If you're not careful, you're going to get stun locked. You have a lot of stacking damage with First Order Executioner and Kylo Ren, and First Order Officer can constantly cleanse. He can provide turn meter to the team. However, we've been tweaking things a little bit, and we found some decent substitutions in here, mostly Zeta Bears. If you switch out someone like First Order Executioner or First Order Officer, you throw in a Zeta Barris, this team holds really well as well. If you throw a lot of stacking health and tenacity on Kylo Ren Unmasked and First Order Stormtrooper, you're also going to get some bonus damage there as well. A lot of bonus survivability, 45,000 health with Kylo Ren Unmasked. I mean, you can see 41% tenacity, and look at that, 38% armor. He's very durable. He can hold really well. He can constantly counter, and so can Stormtrooper. And if you have the Zeta on Stormtrooper, he's also going to work great here, because then he can constantly counter and then call an assist whenever he counters. It's going to be very, very difficult to kill off these characters. You're going to need someone with healing immunity like Wampa or Jedi Training Rey. Anybody who can reliably place a healing immunity on this team will be a great counter, but then that means you're having to use those characters you could use elsewhere on offense. So next up, we have Bounty Hunters, another strong defensive team we've been seeing for Territory Wars. And with Bounty Hunters, you actually have 2 sets of 5 Bounty Hunters that you can use. So you can have a defensive Bounty Hunter team and you can have an offensive Bounty Hunter team. Generally, we like to set Boss for defense because he gives a lot of protection and health regeneration whenever your Bounty Hunter allies inflict debuffs or debuffs are resisted. So this works great here. In fact, you can actually see that it's not Bounty Hunters that have to place or resist the debuffs. It's any debuffs that are placed or resisted by the enemies. And what we've actually found is that there's another character that works really well here that people don't expect, and that is the one and only B2 Super Battle Droid. Now, what's going to happen here is because of the unique on B2 Super Battle Droid, where anytime an ally takes damage or an attack is evaded, he has a 40% chance to gain 100% turn meter, and then he can constantly spam his special here, where he deals physical damage to all enemies, dispels all buffs from them, and then has a 65% chance to apply buff immunity after that. And what's going to happen here is that B2 can constantly move, he can dispel and place buff immunity. All the debuffs that B2 can apply here is going to constantly heal up Bossk and your bounty hunters. Boba Fett, Dengar, and Greedo can also place a lot of debuffs. This team, very tricky to get around if you can't get through Bossk. If you can get through Bossk and get rid of B2, you're going to have a much easier time. This bounty hunter squad, Very, very solid. If you can't afford B2 Battle Droid, then go for a solid 5 team of Bounty Hunters. Go for Bounty Hunters that can place a lot of debuffs because you need to constantly regenerate that health and protection. So Embo, Aura, and Jango really should be saved for an offensive team. Cad Bane, IG-88, and Zam can be interchanged for that 5th spot, but really Boba Fett, Greedo, and Dengar you really should throw with a boss lead anyways. Now next up we have another favorite defensive team for Territory Wars, Kira-led Scoundrels. Now there's a lot of interchangeability here, a lot of flexibility with what you can put in here, though the 3 characters you really should run are the Kira lead, Vandor Chewie, and the L3. You really need the Zeta on Vandor Chewie because he can constantly revive your Scoundrel allies when defeated if he has prepared. Now, one thing that we found actually works really well here, Mission and Zalbar, take them out, put in Chewie and Han. What's going to happen here is that Chewie is going to get prepared to, or excuse me, not prepared, but guard to both Kira and to Han Solo. And what's going to happen here is Kira moves a lot with this team. She can constantly gain turn meter whenever an enemy suffers 2 critical hits, and with that she gains a lot of bonus turn meter. So she gains 50% turn meter and health steal up for herself, and this pretty much means that she's going to go a lot. She's going to call in a lot of assists with Chewie. Chewie can apply tenacity down, he can do max health damage, he can do a lot of dispels, he can stun. He is a very, very strong character with this team. He can also heal Kira and Han back up because they're both guarded with his Zeta. But one trick that we found that is really a nasty surprise for people is that if you have Kira and Chewie very, very fast, what happens is Kira at the beginning of the match uses her grenade ability. And what this grenade ability can do is that it applies stagger to the enemy team. And what you can then do is have Chewie 1 speed slower than Kira, right behind her, and on defense, his first ability is Pulverize. Now this hits everybody on the opposing team, ignores defense, and he gains offense up and crit chance up for 2 turns. However, because everybody has stagger, they are automatically going to lose all turn meter, and that cannot be resisted. So Kira puts stagger on the enemy team, Chewie then uses AoE, removes all turn meter from that enemy team. Your Scoundrel team at that point is going to be going first. Overall, a Scoundrel team like this, extremely deadly. Now, Chewie and Han also have a place on an offensive team, so if you don't have them, go ahead and put Mission and Zalbar in if you can. Really, you want to go for light side Scoundrels because of Vandor Chewie and his revive. So, Scoundrel team, very strong, some pretty good flexibility here. You can throw in Stormtrooper Han as well. Young Han can also work really great here because he can constantly assist. So go for some light side Scoundrels that can work in here. So this is a blast to the past from way back when with the arena meta. You guys may remember the Rex lead, the Triple Cleanse team. You had Rex, Sheridan Baze, General Kenobi, and usually Darth Nihilus. And this team really starts to come back here for Grand Arena defense, very flexible here. We've changed some things out, no more General Kenobi, no more Darth Nihilus. We've got Wampa and Captain Han in here. Now what's going to happen is the Rex lead gives your team a lot of bonus turn meter whenever they suffer critical hits. Baze is constantly taunting, both he and Chirrut can constantly counter, and if you finally do kill Chirrut or Baze, Captain Han's right back there to revive them at half health. You have the constant tenacity up between Rex and Chirrut. Wampa, he really starts to stack damage, so you're pretty much hiding Wampa behind a wall. So this team here, super deadly on defense. It's very unexpected. It is a very tough team to get through. So Rex, Wampa, Chase, and Captain Han, very strong defensive team here. One that a lot of people end up underestimating, and they pay the price for doing so. So here's another team that we find kind of interesting. If you guys aren't able to put Chase into that Rex team, you can kick them into a Rogue One Rebel team. And what's going to happen here is the leadership Zeta with Jyn, you know, they gain protection anytime that they gain a buff. Chirrut and Baze really fits in here if you can't put them in that Rex team, so replace Pow and Fulcrum Ahsoka if you need to. Scarecrow Pathfinder can give himself buffs. He can constantly revive himself if he has buffs on him. You have Cassian, who's kind of the exposed city for a Rebel team here. Anytime they place a debuff, they have a 50% chance to also apply an expose, which can't be resisted. So a Rogue One team like this, you have Pow in here. I've got to include Pow. He can give the team offense up. He can apply defense down to the enemy. So very strong defensive team here. it's going to require some decent counters, and that's the point of these defensive teams. You want strong defensive teams that require a pretty hefty team to use on offense to defeat it. So Rogue One team, Rebel led team with Jin in here. You can also put Ezra, Old Ben. Old Ben works great here. CLS, if you can't afford to put out a CLS-led team, CLS works great in this kind of Rebel team as well. So look for characters that put out a lot of debuffs and also give your team a lot of buffs. That's who you want to go for in this kind of Rebel team. And here we go. We have Phoenix. I mean, what do we need to say? Phoenix has always been one of those teams that people usually apply on defense. If you can start putting some Zetas on them, especially the Zeta on Sabine, even the Zeta on Kanan, that way you can start getting some cleanses, you can get some additional damage in with your Phoenix team. This is a very strong defensive team that requires some pretty decent counters if you're not careful. So a Palpatine team can counter them, but usually you want to save that for teams like Bounty Hunters or some other stronger Rebel teams that you find on defense. But a Zeta Phoenix team, very powerful, very dangerous to underestimate, and this is kind of the synergy here. There's no real characters you can swap in or out here because the synergy as a whole is built around the Phoenix faction. Now you have Ezra you can throw in here, but I like to throw Ezra onto some of my Jedi teams because the Jedi are pretty much the meta right now. But a Phoenix team as a whole, very strong team to throw on defense. It's definitely one that if you can't get rid of Kanan, they're constantly going to counter, they're constantly going to be applying buffs, dazing, stunning. There's a lot of stuff here to deal with the Phoenix team, and overall with their Zetas, very strong here. So if you can apply a defensive team with Phoenix in there, by all means, put that out there because this team can definitely get some nice defensive holds for you if the enemy is unprepared for this kind of defensive team. And finally, we've got a Jedi team. I want to talk about Revan, but Revan's kind of iffy, you know. Revan's a given for a defensive team. Revan's also very good on offense. How about a Basla defensive team for Jedi? She gets a lot of bonus protection up, a lot of bonus tenacity. They deal a lot of bonus damage. They're very hard to put debuffs on while they have protection up. So a Jedi team with a Basla Zeta lead, going to be moving pretty fast at the beginning, going to gain a lot of bonus damage. So characters like Hermit Yoda, Old Ben, they're very hard to get through. They have a lot of bonus health and protection already. And Hermit Yoda can constantly regenerate that protection up that Basila gives. So overall, pretty deadly there. Ezra works great here. His flourish, if you have the Zeta on it, can hit very hard while he has protection up. Qui-Gon Jinn can give your team offense up if he dispels. He can call team members to assist. So overall, a Jedi team here, very strong. If you want to throw in some other characters here, by all means, go ahead. I mean, Mace Windu, probably not the best character to go for here, but I'm sure there's a place for him. Anakin could work pretty well here, Ayla as well, but I like to use Ayla with my Revan team. So a defensive team of Basila with some Jedi in here, perfect. You don't want to go outside the Jedi faction though, because her leadership doesn't benefit anybody outside the Jedi faction. So you have to use a Jedi team with her. So overall, Basila, definitely one of the better teams that we use for defensive teams in Territory Wars. It's going to apply to the same here with Grand Arena, because I mean, pretty much at the end of the day, Grand Arena is a more personal territory war for most people. You know, you're going to be finding the exact same teams that you find in Territory Wars. So that's the overall trick here is find the best teams that you can use in Territory Wars, apply them here to Grand Arena while also not stretching out your offensive capabilities as well. So these are some teams that I like to use for Grand Arena defense. We don't have to set any more than 7, thank God, because man, setting 7 is a stretch for even your characters at the higher rosters. Until you get to up towards of 5 million with your roster score, you're not going to get a lot of flexibility here. So 7 teams that you can deploy on defense that don't end up eating into your offensive capabilities as well. That is something that is very tricky to manage for a lot of people. So these are some ideas I have for defensive teams for you guys. Let me know down in the comments what teams you guys like to use on defense. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them down as well. If you guys have enjoyed this video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this, and I will talk to you guys later.